Good evening, listeners, and welcome to the Talkie Taka podcast. And this is an episode where Darwin has finally evolved. Chelsea have finally gotten a victory. Finally, it feels good to say so. Honestly, I don't know. I think I probably jinxed it considering the next game week is coming up soon. But yeah, I still wanted to say it because it's been so long. United.
The last time Swag said something like that was, "We have a number 9 and he scored." Wow.
Exactly why I didn't want to say something like this, but c'est la vie. We'll see. I mean, the last time I said that, as you said, it was Oba. He did not touch the ball again. But yeah, we'll see. And also, there was a rash penalty that gave United the win in a game where everyone thought that after 4 minutes it's done. The rash penalty was from Forest's side to DSK's finger waving, not from the referee's side. I just wanted to put Rash's name in there. So, welcome to the episode, listeners. And we have Radhaji, DSK, and RK on the panel today. So, boys, there is another game coming up tomorrow, another game week. It never stops. So, we'll start with your talky moments, points, whatever you want to call it. Radhaji, we'll start with you. I think it has to be only one thing, right?
You guessed it, Swag. Obviously, I was talking about the Everton Wolves game. Can't be anything apart from that. But it was Nunes. I think that's the one. It's a moment we've been waiting for so long. Darwin has done plenty for people to be happy with, plenty to for people to be optimistic about, but he's not had a moment like this. So Darwin Nunes, the double salvo to beat a Newcastle team at St James's Park with 10 men, I have to say, got me off my seat, fist pumping, running around the room. Pretty awesome feeling after a long time.
And Howe's never beaten Klopp yet, right?
I think he went to great pains in the pre-match conference to talk about EFL game where he had lost to Bournemouth some 7 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know. So as soon as he was asked that question, he was like, "When you ask me that question, all I can think about is that one match which I lost to them." Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think he has lost, but maybe not in the league.
Okay. DSK, what's it been for you? United have been busy. Finally, a win that was come from behind against the odds. Is that your talking point?
Probably not that we can speaking later, but the in our first episode I said, "Oh, this feels very non-United like, where the entire transfer has been really well planned, things going so smooth." Yeah, I jinxed it left and right because United are in a last-minute shopping spree trying to get loan deals for $1, I think. Not sure whether we'll have a left back in by end of the window. We do not have any forward. I do not consider Maniquin Marshall anymore as a forward. We do not have a backup for Casemiro. Varane seems to be injured. That means Harry Maguire stays, and we do not have a backup keeper as of now. I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that more in detail because the transfer window slams shut as it usually does on Sky Sports tomorrow. And talking about jinxes, RK, what's your talkie point of this week?
So, when, like, first of all, when DSK was talking about his talking moment and all the transfer, the, question that has been going through my mind is that Maguire plus McTominay 60 million, should we have taken that or not? I think that's, looks like such a big blunder right now. But my talking moment of the week is the Spanish FA Rubiales. The speech that he made, sounded like some politician in parliament saying, standing his ground, giving a big election rally speech, and then the most surprising part, people even applauding him for that. So it's something which has stayed in my mind throughout this week, and I have been amazed at how collectively, so many people can be so deluded, and they can be so foolish to back someone so obviously wrong. And he's even gone to the extent of saying that he was innocent, and like the woman player was even consensual or trying to what not. So I mean, it's horrible, and that's my talking moment of the week.
Yeah, it reminded me as if he was trying to invoke the spirit of Leonardo DiCaprio from Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving and stuff like that. It did not come across that way, and now his mother is locked herself up in a church on a hunger strike to so that the witch hunt against her son stops. And this is when everything is out there in the public domain. So it's not as if something happened behind closed doors and there is a he said she said sort of situation. This is out there in the open, and even then there is so much negativity around. It is frankly astounding. Right. So, getting into s- slightly more positive things to talk about, Radhaji, why don't you, as the person who was trying to get the positivity in last episode, someone be positive, please? Why don't you start us off? You've had a pretty good weekend, I would say.
One hell of a weekend, Swag. I mean, started off, I said the same thing last episode, and I feel like I'm starting off every Liverpool match in a similar manner. When the game started, it looked like everything was going to shit. I don't mean the red card or the Trent Alexander-Arnold incident specifically. I think with 11 men, I think we were playing quite terribly. We weren't winning any of the battles, no 50-50s, stray passes from our best players. Again, I think this happened in the home game last against Bournemouth as well, where Allison and Trent had some poor passes in the beginning of the game. Here as well, Trent very poor passing, and then of course the mistake for the goal. So Boslai had a couple of errors on the ball, and then they scored off a absolutely like howler from Trent, where he was for the second time in 2 weeks looked up before he had got the ball in control, and the ball went past him, and they ended up scoring from there. And then the Van Dijk red card. So when that goal went in, you always think, okay, there's a lot of time in the game. Liverpool have gotten better as games have gone along, so there's a lot of hope there. But then Van Dijk's sending off, that was a real gut punch. So yeah, after that, not expecting anything from the game. I think I called on the as soon as the goal went in and the red card happened. I was saying this looks like a Man City final thrashing when Mane got sent off several a few years ago now. As we kept holding on till halftime, I thought, okay, not final, maybe 3-0. That's about that's where we're trending. But I have to say, what a great job done by the boys. I think a special shout out to Saboslai. I already waxed lyrical about him last episode. Full of running, absolute beast in terms of stamina. Even McAllister looked tired by the end of the game, but Soboslai was still going. He played as an attacking eight, went to a right winger, came back to an attacking eight, went to a number six, and then again went back to the right wing by the end of the game. He did absolutely everything in that match. The subs absolutely changed everything. Harvey Elliott, and then of course Darwin. Oh my God, he's given me so much to be positive about in the past, but one of the things he's never given was a sense of, hey, Darwin is the kind of guy that if he gets a chance, he's going to score it when it counts. He's always given me the Gabriel Jesus vibes where over a season he will be contributing well, but that one chance, one goal is definitely not something that he was. And two chances, two goals, and what clinical goals. Loved it. Amazing night.
Just couple of questions on the early decisions. So one was with respect to Trent Alexander-Arnold after getting a yellow and the foul that he committed on Gordon. After that, I think that was definitely another yellow. But do you guys think that the first yellow, where he kind of pushes the ball away, is that something like overdoing the time wasting rules? That's my first question. And the second one, Van Dijk, the foul that Van Dijk committed, was it again? I think it like for me, it was going into that ballpark of would the other defender reach there or not? Would it be a direct shot on target for Isaac or not? So it was a bit questionable for me. What do you guys think, DSK?
Yeah, for me, like had it happened anywhere else on the pitch, it would have been a yellow at max. I think we had a lot of debates in our WhatsApp group whether it was a red. I think some of the folks were thrashing me because I said straight red initially. And that's not because of the severity of the foul. Like, yes, it was a foul, but I felt he was clean through. I don't think the other centre back would have reached. It was clear goal scoring, and I think some of the folks probably did not see the impact that Van Dijk made. So, because when you look at the video, it looked like he got the ball. He got the ball, but probably clipped the person first, which was a slight foul. But I think due to the situation there, I thought, yeah, probably red. Time wasting rules are absolutely stupid. Uh, in the United game, there is a case where there are two balls on the pitch. Onana waits for somebody to clear off, and this is an injury time, so he's not going to do it. He waits for it. The referee comes and gives him a yellow. The referee, like, it's just stupid. Like, yeah, follow things to the letter, but have some application. It's like absolute. Yeah, I keep tweeting every week. War is not the problem. It's idiots implementing it. It's like idiots use taking another set of guidelines and absolutely making a shit show of it.
Yeah, it's not even it's inexplicable really. Like, okay, let's go 2 seconds before that incident. It was a clear foul on Trent. He was pushed into the sidelines, literally pushed in the back by Gordon. He goes flying, almost reaches where the coaches are sitting. He picks the ball up and then throws it back into the field of play. It wasn't like time wasting. And if you then look at that, I was delighted when he didn't get the yellow. It was a pure yellow all day long, second yellow. But the first yellow was not even like, it was the most terrible situation ever. So for me, justice was totally done. But then you come back to Van Dyke. I thought it was harsh. Now, I don't mean that from a application of the rules, application of the laws. Now, yes, there was clear contact, and the whole contact happened before getting the ball and all of that. Yeah, that makes sense. But again, for me, for a tackle that was the way that it was, I think tons of those happen in games and are not given as fouls also. So I mean, yes, when it's a red card tackle, last man, you do go to the video, you check everything, and therefore you can't escape. I get it, but it was a very simple, not so serious tackle for me, so it felt harsh, and I thought that it was going to be a 3-match ban, which is why I thought it was super duper harsh. At the end, it's a 1-match ban, but now he might get a bigger ban because he swore at the refs and all of that. But I guess that's karma.
I'm just reminded of the Mike Dean interviews that he's given in the last week or so. If you remember, he talked about the Chelsea Spurs game, and he didn't want his mate, and the mate thing isn't even the point. He didn't want Anthony Taylor to suffer the ignominy of being called to the monitor because he had already had a tough game. Like, what's your job as the VAR? And then he had a follow-up interview in the Sky Studio where he basically spent the entire thing trying to say that no, he's not my mate. I just mean mate as in someone who I work with. And but that isn't the point that people are raising. People are raising the point that when you saw as the VAR that Cucurella's hair had been pulled down, why did you not ask the referee to go to the monitor? That's literally your job. So if you're doing stuff like this, I think it's time we stop believing in consistency of application of rules and stuff like this. They'll basically do what they want to do.
Repeating what I said a few minutes back, it's about the idiots using it, right? And Mike Dean being the biggest one and the big, like, he uses this as an opportunity to get the attention.
Yeah, another reason I was really peeved about the Van Dijk red card was that it wasn't a clear goal scoring opportunity because there was Allison. Man, did you see that save from Allison?
I think it was a game of two substitutions for me. One, obviously, we have already talked about Darwin Nunes, but the other thing I didn't understand at all was Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon had, Trent Alexander-Arnold on the kind of leash that I last saw him with maybe Marcus Rashford, and I had no idea why Anthony Gordon would be taken off. That was mystifying.
Yeah, I felt that, I think once the red card happened, I felt Newcastle were a bit too cocky. I think how and his entire team got a bit overconfident, thinking, okay, red card, we already have the lead and we are going to cruise. I think that kind of led to the downfall. So we all hate Newcastle. We hate Eddie Howe even more. So yeah,
Yeah, see, I'm not going to doomsay so early. but I know you guys already heard me when I said made my predictions for the first sacking and stuff like that. This is basically the point I had, right? Like, I don't think he has the experience or the nous at that level to make certain decisions at certain times. I don't think he's got a ruthless streak in him yet, and it's a learning curve. I'm sure he'll get better. But that's why I felt like Newcastle will not meet expectations. I'm not saying that that's for sure going to happen. It's just a feeling that I have. But that substitute made no sense.
Moving on to another team that plays in red, Arsenal. They dropped some points this weekend, and I'm not very keen on this party at RB and not playing Gabriel. All these experiments that he's doing, I'm not too comfortable with what Arteta is trying this season. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, when I was thinking about this Arsenal game, what you said was the first thing that came to my mind. That is experimentation. There are too many changes that are being done. I feel unnecessarily. I thought after 3 years, maybe 3.5 years, they had a very, very nice structure to go for. If we look at what parts of the structure he can't help and which parts he's unnecessarily tinkering with, one of them would of course be Zaka leaving. So Havertz coming in, of course, can also at one level, okay, it's a transfer decision and hence it will take time to bed in. But when you also think of why he got Havertz, it's a big experiment, right? He didn't go for a like for like replacement who would kind of help in ball control, contribute in the middle part of the pitch. It's a very left of the field kind of a signing. So that was one. Second is, of course, whatever he has done on the during the field of play, which is I think primarily Gabriel sitting out. He's given reasons as to the left back not being available and then Gabriel coming in, but somehow it doesn't. Sorry, Gabriel staying out, but somehow doesn't really make sense to me. Why would Gabriel have to sit out just because Zinchenko is not able to play? You bring someone else into the team; they're also kind of playing a similar role. Uh, uh, so I'm not able to understand that. And then Partey is a very Alexander like Trent Alexander-Arnold kind of a shift where on the ball he comes into midfield, etc. And then off the ball, the whole balance is now completely tilted towards that side. I feel all these changes at the back, especially preventing them from building up in a nice manner.
See, I understand the natural criticism that Arteta is getting because yeah, it's not going as well as everybody expected. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still early in the season, and I was a big critic of Arteta to start with in the beginning as well. So I think he's earned the right to at least see how this plays out. At least for me, I think he's trying something new, and I'm okay to wait and see how it goes. Like exactly what RK said about Trent, right? It's the same thing that they're trying to do, and the fact is they have Rice in there, and they want that second in the box midfield. They want that second guy to be a midfielder. That's Partey, so which is why they're doing it. I think that the plan was always going to be Jurian Timber for that role, but clearly that's not because of Timber's injury. That's not working out, and they're trying something else with it. So I'm not against it. I'm okay to wait and watch and see how it goes.
And of course, this Sunday, having said so many things about them, I'm sure that Arsenal will come blasting back to prove me wrong.
RK doing his pre-match jinxing already on a Thursday evening. Why so many teams are trying the box midfield? Like for Manchester City, for example, it made sense because something was definitely not working for them, especially with Haaland coming in and Haaland not being the kind of Pep Guardiola striker. And this shift made sense for them. For Liverpool also, it made sense because they did not have that right player profile. And also, Alexander Arnold was getting targeted. So it made sense why it made sense for two of those teams. But multiple other teams trying to copy that doesn't seem to be working out. And not just picking on Arsenal, because I felt in the first game against Wolves, United tried to do that with Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw, who is renowned for bombing forward and putting in the crosses, was playing in the inverted fullback, did not look right at all. Any thoughts on why there is a radical shift from multiple teams?
What's standing out to me is when everybody made that shift from 4-4-2 to 4-3-3. it was a simple point of um, outnumbering the other team, knowing what formation that they're going to play, but outnumbering them in midfield and winning those battles. Now that pretty much everybody has moved to a 4-3-3 kind of formation or some variation of that, I think this is just the natural next step of that. They're trying to still win that midfield battle because everybody knows that that's where matches are won and that's where control, not matches are won, but that's where control of the game lies. So they're just trying to make sure that they have the upper hand in that control battle. The other thing could be that everybody has now gone into the whole attacking fullback strategy, right? I don't think there is a single team who still plays, the typical old defensive fullbacks on the wings and stuff like that. So other teams have also figured out a way to counter that, perhaps. So maybe they're setting traps and counter press situations for that gap I know for sure it happens for Liverpool. Everybody attacks down the right where Trent Alexander-Arnold bombs forward. So maybe that's another thing, that they need somebody else closer to that gap in where the fullbacks have vacated, to make it easier to protect against a counter. Those are the two reasons that I can think of why so many people are going down this route.
One more thing is basically with 4-3-3, it's almost like you have two wingers, you have two number eights and a striker. So you kind of always try to bring width into the game as well. In addition to midfield control, now you have five people, who can potentially attack the top line of the field. So even from a width perspective or from a attacking numbers perspective, this formation seems to kind of tick all the boxes as of now.
Okay, so listeners, next point we were going to discuss was our FPL tips. But just to take a break from that, Manchester United have been pulled in the same group as Bayern Munich.
This is a scam. Why is
Interesting.
why is United, which is like the fourth or fifth team in the second pot, going to Group A, and why is Arsenal getting Sevilla?
Yeah, so
Who's in the third pot? Is there any
no,
interesting?
I think apart from Milan and Newcastle, which anyways doesn't matter for an English team, I don't think there are too many big teams big teams in the last
Are
two
you
pot.
saying it doesn't matter for an English team because two English teams can't be drawn in the same group?
Indeed.
Yeah,
Got it.
and in the round of 16.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You
two
know,
teams from the same
like
country.
like the headlines are already there for the English media there. That United could have signed Kane, that they didn't, and now he's scoring against them. So all the headlines are there.
I
This
can give
is a scam. I'm sorry, Swag. Leipzig and City drawn again. Like, don't they play like every year?
The
Ooh,
Josco Guardiol derby. But
Derby.
don't think we didn't notice that piece of ridiculous jinxing 3 months before the match that RK has already gotten started.
And there is another big one, Napoli Real Madrid.
Hmm.
Wow. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Real Madrid's front line of Joselu and whoever else that they have may not be able to compete with the might of Napoli.
And there is also the Usman Dembele derby in PSG versus Dortmund. So that's also going to be one to look out for.
I think Sevilla, Arsenal, really good for Arsenal. Anyway, Sevilla will lose games so that they finish third and go to Europa and win that again.
But
Yeah.
they will have to contend with Liverpool there this time round. It won't be as easy.
You're talking about Sevilla. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who plays.
They did
You
beat
know,
us in a.
if like sorry, if I remember the first final that Klopp contested, was it to Sevilla?
I
That
remember
was
Mr.
the year where I don't know if it was Sevilla or it was definitely Sevilla for like 2-3 years, but then um, Unai Emery I think went on a run with Villarreal as well. So it was like Unai Emery doing magic in Europa League for like a few 4-5 years in a row.
But for now, FPL tips. I'm going to go to Radhaji. Radhaji, you talked about Malo Gusto on the group. Unfortunately, you forgot to put him in your starting 11, is it?
I forgot to put him. First of all, I forgot to mention him as one of the recommendations for last week. I thought about it after the pod was done. So at the last minute, I thought, okay, this seems like a no-brainer. I got him in my team. I put him in instead of Estupinian for this game week, thinking, hey, this should be a solid clean sheet. Little did I know that he was going to go ahead and score 14 points. And now I'm around 15 points off the top of the league. So yeah, I feel absolutely terrible. So Malo Gusto, guys, I'm sure his price has increased from 4 to 4.1 or 4.2 now, but he's still a bargain. The other one that I had my eye on, and I did make that sub in my team, was Udogi. I think Udogi is looking like a bargain as well. I was waiting to see the first round of midweek fixtures to see what Tottenham do, and they played Ben Davies at left back. So I feel like they are definitely setting up a number one and number two at the fullback position. So Udogi looks like the number one for now. So he should be a safe bet as well.
Nowadays, with so many teams concentrating on fullbacks and attacking using fullbacks, what I sense is teams try to rotate so that they do not burn out. So I feel it's a bit of a risk taking one of them because they'll probably play 25 to 26 games only because I've tried taking Pep defenders and I've been burned and come and been on the floor. So yeah.
Yeah,
Also specific to Udogi, I'm sorry there. Uh, yep, I'm one of the matches he played really well was against United, so that doesn't count. And more importantly, I feel Spurs are going to concede quite a bit. Like I think Christian Romero and Medina and I subbed him out, because yeah, I think they might concede quite a bit. So maybe you'll get few assist points, but yeah, not sure about Spurs defenders.
no, I think it's also about the price, DSK. So at the end of the day, Spurs may concede, but the price that Udogi is at, because I don't think the FPL guys had imagined that he would be the starting left back for Spurs. So I think that's the reason why it's a bargain, similar to Malo Gusto and even Robert Sanchez. I don't think anybody would have imagined that these would be starters for Chelsea. So that's the value that they have. I know what you're saying, because Pochettino was the guy who first started that. Like, it was impossible to pick a Spurs wing back or full back in your fantasy teams because he kept switching them out every week. That's why I was waiting for the first round of midweek fixtures to see whether there's a clear trend of Emerson Royal and Ben Davies playing in the EFL Cup, and they did. So that's giving me some confidence, at least for this phase of the Premier League, that Pedro Porro and Udogi are going to be the starting Premier League left backs. It might coming thick in coming all like every week almost. But yeah, at their price, it's a real bargain, at least for the next 3-4 weeks.
United boys. So the first 4 minutes seemed to indicate something else entirely, but then the team came back. There's this Ole style fight back in the second half, aided by a red card and silly defending by Forest. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, really, really horrible start. I remember sitting down, with a glass of whiskey and thinking, okay, I messaged DSK before the game that, I have a really bad feeling about this. I don't know why. Something I'm not able to explain. And, when it started with those two goals in 4 minutes, it was really kind of, okay, my fears coming true. But really, really poor two goals to concede. Onana, who I complimented so well in the last couple of games, in fact, was I feel he was badly at fault for the first goal as well. Of course, the situation was not of his making, but once Rashford made that mistake, once Van Bissaka made that mistake, and once Avoni was clean through one goal, I expected Onana to be much more aggressive and cut down the angle. Second goal was just enforcing that whole fluke kind of narrative where kind of goal that probably if it's your bad day you catch that kind of goal. I think the response was good in certain aspects on the ball, in terms of how we were structuring, how the players were positioned and how we were building up. It was kind of reassuring to see us create so many chances and cut through Forest so easily. So that is the good part. We showed character to come back into the game as well. We had enough and more chances, to bury it even before we actually won the game. Like for me, the penalty was like the penalty would have been irrelevant if we had finished our easy chances, especially Casemiro and Bruno. But like concerning from an Arsenal game point of view, and also for the next few months where players are injured, is basically what we are going to do without Mount, right? Without Mount, we kind of lost the intensity of pressing, that we had. So that is a big concern. I thought we were not great off the ball. So for me, going forward, that's a big concern. Are we going to improve off the ball? And just hoping against hope that somehow we get Amrabat.
I don't think we talked about this, but what an incredible couple of games they were. Arsenal and United playing at the same time. Absolutely superb games to watch, both of them. And I felt like both games were mirroring each other with early upset goal, then a sending off for one of the teams, and then a comeback of sorts. I thought it was a amazing couple of games, and by the end of it, I was out of breath. It was a really good.
Let's start with the question on Onana. We have had years of seeing concrete Dave stay on his goal line. And we were thinking Onana is this sweeper keeper who's going to stay at the halfway line and kick. So I'm pretty surprised why this has happened. And that chipped goal, how much of that do you think has impacted Onana? What do you think there?
I think he's done a lot of crazy shit in his career, and I don't think he's changed his crazy shit in the sense that he goes running like into places where it's tough to see keepers in those places, and he's definitely had some errors as well on that. I don't think that should impact him. That's just the style of play, and he was very clear when with his whole World Cup debacle that listen, I'm not going to compromise my style of play because the manager is trying to constrain me in some way. So I don't think he should be. I think over time he has gotten more responsible as well. I don't think that should be a large factor.
Yeah, and you consider any modern keeper, that's not an error. I mean, he like his positioning was very correct in terms of how you see other keepers as well. It was just a mistake from the fullback, and you can't expect the keeper to be on the goal line in those situations.
Yeah, the mistake from the fullback, is that a reason why we're seeing United suddenly in the market for a left back? I mean, it seems like the last few years United are always in the market for a left back. I don't know whether it's to challenge Shaw or is it somebody to replace Shaw.
United are in the market right now because Malacia is out for at least a couple of months and Luke Shaw is out till November. So they need somebody available till at least December, so that when these two come back, you're not stuck with the player. And then you only have Dallo and Van Bissaka. The good part here being Dallo can play on both the wings. But that I agree with that theory. Getting anyone as a left back, even if it's a random left back, I think suddenly gets the motivation for Luke Shaw going, and he starts playing like Roberto Carlos for a few games. So yeah, that also works.
You guys can have Cucurella. You've already talked about him. We even put him out on the pitch just to show you how good he is. He was the highest rated player yesterday. Apparently, that's fallen flat. That plan has fallen flat on its back for us.
Yeah, I think the I don't know. What I'm thinking is now that he has played for one club, now he comes to United. He either has to go back to Chelsea because you cannot loan him out to a third club in the same season. You
You
can't play
just
for more.
keep him for the full season.
And
We don't mind.
United do not want to keep him because probably Luke Shaw did not work.
You should do what Chelsea do and just sign like 7 left backs and keep them for 20 years. I'm is the Emerson at West Ham the same fullback that Chelsea
Yeah, yeah.
had, or is it somebody else?
That's the
Okay, so
guy.
there's
That's the
that
guy.
guy, Baba Rahman. I think finally after some 27 years left Chelsea earlier this season. You should just do what they do. But just a quick another question to you, United guys. We've seen now in 2 consecutive games, or maybe 2 out of the 3 games, Casemiro with an absolute miss of the season contender, and then Bruno with a miss of the season contender last week as well. Anything to be worried about there, or just freak occurrences?
Yeah,
There's nothing to be worried. There's nothing to be surprised. That is United's finishing.
on a more serious note, definitely very worried about Casemiro's form. Looks a bit like, probably, I don't know if it's the right comparison, but Van Dijk or maybe Fabinho at the start of last season. Suddenly looking like they have lost some pace, like suddenly looking leggy. And when you factor in the age, you always have those questions till, until those doubts are resolved. Probably he's a slow starter. He had a slow start last season as well. He took his time to get into the mix of things. So hopefully some of that has to do with this time again the same thing happening. But at the age of 31, you always worry, is it the beginning of the end for Casemiro? And that's where, the whole worry comes with respect to not having a direct replacement as well. But, it's only been 1 year of Casemiro. So I really, when we signed him, always had in my mind that at least this needs to be working for at least 2 years. So hope that he puts it behind.
But one surprising part was the way he was recycling possession when United had the ball, something that you probably don't associate Casemiro with. That was kind of impressive. Although, yes, when United lost the ball, it was comical.
Yeah. So let's move on now. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because reasons. But Chelsea did finally win a game, and it was only Luton, so there's no point going overboard with this. But it was good to see some players coming back into form, not taking any names. And yeah, seemed like a more cohesive unit. But again, lads, it's Luton. I don't know. Did any of you
Uh,
catch the game?
Right, you might not be interested in taking names and but I'm going to take one name for sure, and that's Mr. Raheem Sterling. What a great display! It just, I think DSK was speaking about it, and then we all latched on to it one day where he was talking of Pep converting Sterling into a tap-in merchant. Look at what Poch has done to him in a few months. Just made him into, I'm just remembering all those early Liverpool, which I don't remember too much, but what I really hark back to is the Euro 2021. Sterling was on fire that tournament. Even in a Southgate team, he was, encouraged to go dribble past opponents, take people on, and we are seeing that same Sterling again. And to top it off, he's scoring a lot of goals even now.
Yeah, so I actually think that he's a guy who has some freakish strength for his size. So that naturally makes him a very interesting dribbler. I thought, and I don't think he was playing this way at Chelsea also last season. I don't think he was playing so direct. Let's call it direct. Maybe that was just a hangover from City, but I was beginning to think, okay, is this like a reason for this being a lack of physicality or a loss of physicality, considering he did start playing at the top level at the age of say 15 or 16? So is it an early loss of physicality that's coming for Sterling? But what a refreshing couple of weeks it's been. The other guy, Nico Jackson, I think we've all been talking about him about being an exciting player, and one of the things that Chelsea have signed, which seemed quite exciting. He got his first goal as well. So there was a lot of talk last week about how he's a guy who just needs his first goal. I think similar to Darwin Nunes in a sense that he has this potential to become a real difficult player to play against for a lot of Premier League teams. So, Swag, what did you think of Nico Jackson finally getting off the mark?
Yeah, really happy for him because, as you said, he seems like this guy who's working for the team. He's bringing the other players into it as well. He's not just playing for himself as some strikers are presumed to, but he's a very good link-up player. So in that sense, as they say, you pay your dues and then you get your reward. So he paid his dues throughout the game, and not just this game. He's been working out throughout preseason, throughout the first two games as well. So really felt nice for him to get that goal. He seems to also idolize Drogba, so he has the same shirt number as him, and coincidentally, they've both scored their first league goals in the third game of the season at home to a newly promoted team. I mean, there are some people who can dig up such sort of links, but anyway, yeah. So I think he's pretty chuffed about it, and yeah, so so
But
are all the fans, I
one
guess.
question for you: how two outgoings is what I wanted to ask you about. One is Lewis Hall. I read that he's a childhood Newcastle fan,
Yeah.
probably from the city. That seems like a big loss in the sense of how good a player he was. Although you have depth, but and also Chaloba. Like whenever I've seen him play, he looked pretty decent. Someone that Chelsea could at least use in the squad instead of bringing the likes of maybe Disasi, who might be a good player, but they spent so much money on him. So what do you think of these two outgoings?
I think a fair bit is linked to the FFP fact because both of them are academy players. So whatever you get for them, that goes straight on to the books. I'm pretty sure Hall was not someone we wanted to sell because he is, as you said, he's demonstrated so much potential. I think that's why it's been turned to a loan for this season and then for him to be purchased next season so that we get because you can't just sell one season and be happy about it. You have to keep selling to balance the books. So that will probably go on to next season's books. Chaloba is an odd case because he gets the confidence of the managers, but and as you said, he's usually decent. You remember we had this discussion about Mount towards the end of last season when there were already rumors that he might go to Liverpool or United. And again, he'll always give you that 6 or 7, and sometimes 8, sometimes 9, but 6 is for sure. And I feel that Chalobah is the same deal, which is why I think, and him being linked to Bayern and Tuchel wanting to buy him as someone who's worked with him before is sort of a validation that he's a good enough player. Why we got Disasi in is again probably because it's a longish contract, so you can amortize over a longer duration. He was Badiashile's teammate at Monaco and things like that. So they're probably trying to build something, and then these are the casualties of that rebuild that are happening. People like Hall and Chaloba. He can stay on, particularly at least for this year, because if a deal doesn't happen by the end of tomorrow, because Fofana is unlikely to be out soon, to come back soon. But yeah, it looks like he might go, and if he doesn't feel that appreciated at Chelsea, I think for his sake, it's probably better to leave.
So talking about feeling appreciated, Swag, how do you think Malang Sar feels right about now when his own coach doesn't know his name?
Who's Malang Sar? I don't know. Is that a Liverpool player? Yeah, that was odd. I mean, even in Football Manager, you get to see a list of all the players you have on your books. You might not want to deal with them, but you at least know. I don't know what if Poch was trying to make a statement about I still have too many players. You need to sell more. But yeah, interestingly, Malang Sarr is on 100K a week, so we wanted to offload him, which is probably why people like Mount wanted to leave, because I think the full draw for the Champions League is done, and there is one group that is catching everyone's fancy. Listeners, we've been going crazy in the chat here, and it's PSG, Borussia Dortmund, AC Milan, and Newcastle United. There's one for you to watch out for. That's box office, and as
Versus Saudi Arabia.
yes, Qatar versus
That's
Saudi Arabia to take hold of Europe.
Dude, this is the craziest group I've seen ever. This is insane. Group F for group fucking hell, man. What a bloody group this is. Milan, Newcastle, along with PSG Dortmund, man. I'm actually getting excited about Champions League this time, even though Liverpool isn't there.
And also, not to forget, as DSK said, Manchester United will be going back to hell because they've been drawn with Galatasaray in the same group. I say bring Kino to the bus to make sure that the kids are well taken care of. Eh? But yeah, Bayern,
One
Man United,
small,
Galatasaray, and Copenhagen.
yeah, one small thing that struck me when I saw Copenhagen, Bayern Munich getting drawn is in the 1998-99 season. We had Bayern Munich and we had a Danish team. We had Brøndby. So this time we have Bayern Munich and we have FC Copenhagen.
This is that
That's
one rare moment, listener, in the
That's a
entire
reverse jinx.
season that Arcade doesn't jinx United. Rather, he said that you can win the Champions League. Imagine the level of confidence. Oh God.
Hurricane against United again. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, he'll finally get to play at Old Trafford as we thought he might do this season. So yeah, he'll just be in the opponent's colours, but
And Rasmus Højlund back to his hometown.
home country at least.
even the Group C seems pretty good. Union Berlin, hopefully they will be as good this season as they were last, and they will offer some surprises for different teams. So Union Berlin, Real Madrid, Napoli, along with Braga seems a decent group.
Yeah, I like Group G. Manchester City, Leipzig, uh,
Red
Whipping
Star.
Boys, Whipping Boys, and Red Star. What a group! Like City keep wondering why they can't sell tickets, and this is the reason why. You play absolutely random teams, nobody's going to come and watch.
Yeah. And also, just before we move on from the Champions League draw, Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV in the same group. I think DSK, Sevilla might struggle to finish third in this one. They might have to carry on in the Champions League at this rate.
Don't underestimate. Never underestimate Sevilla.
And don't underestimate RC Long as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
we saw what they did against United. So RC Long, DSK, feeling it.
Moving on, let's quickly, if anyone has anything interesting to talk about the Wolves West Ham games. Obviously, Wolves won the first 6 pointer of this season, which was like in the third weekend itself. But anything interesting to call out there?
Yeah, really interesting. It's like Everton aren't able to score goals. Shocking because they have no goal scorers in their team. I think they have like 5 or 6 xG already with 0 goals in the season so far. They actually dominated that game against Wolves. Had at least 3 or 4 really good chances and it couldn't end up scoring. And as expected, ended up losing the game. So yeah, I think Everton are in real trouble. Everybody better revise their predictions of first manager to get the sack.
And Moyes ball, yeah. I want to see Anirudh Krishnan's explosion.
One second. Let's tone it down a notch. I was talking about how I really like West Ham, and I want them to start doing something more positive. I have never dissed David Moyes. I think he's like an effective guy. I just don't like his style of management that much. I mean, they're going to be good again. Under him. My problem was that he's on a 1 year contract, man. Like, so what exactly are they doing? And if they get 100 million for a player, I don't want David Moyes on a 1 year contract to be spending that money on the likes of Maguire and
I
McTominay and whatnot.
I think it's a good choice because look at the players that he gets. So he gets fired, Sean Dyche comes in, or Big Sam comes in. Like the set of players are there. Like they'll not have any problems in finding a manager who fit their system.
No, but honestly, if you just go through that team, right, and oh my God, I'm so happy that they're signing Kudus now. Like it's a really talented team. If you don't tell anybody that the manager is David Moyes and the players that you have are Paqueta, Jared Bowen, Benrama, Kudus, they've got some Edson Alvarez. I
Ward
mean, they're
Prowse,
what well he's a little bit of a
Moyes guy.
basic b in this in this list of names that I was reading out, but it's a pretty talented skillful team. I mean, it's not the kind of team that I would imagine David Moyes would have preferred if he was getting the say on who to sign, and there's no way he's going to get a say on who to sign if he's on a 1 year contract. I do think they are thinking about plan B post David Moyes.
Yeah, probably at the end of the season they ship out Antonio and Ward-Prowse. But yeah, I think those are the two players who are going to take them in the top half the season. Interesting point on West Ham. It's not particularly West Ham, but the game that they played against Brighton. I think there is a video by Tifo on how how brilliantly West Ham did not fall into the Brighton trap, and looks like there's a template that teams are now following on how to play Brighton, how to not walk into the trap, wait, make them lose patience, and then hit them on the counter. So let's see how many of the other teams uh, follow these tactics. Quite sometimes I feel, I mean, Brighton to be some very similar to what Ole's United did in terms of results, not in terms of tactics, of course. Tactically, I think they're better in the sense that they really punched about the way they weight against teams that play really good football. But at the same time, uh, when somebody waits patiently, you had no clue, and then you leave huge gaps open.
Quickly moving on because we spent enough time on the Champions League draw, which was too much fun for us. This weekend, there's just one game I want to talk about. Arsenal and Manchester United. Definitely the game of the weekend. And what do we think? What's going to happen here?
I think we already know what RK thinks. He took an extra week to bring in his jinxes about this game from last week's episode itself. I think it's going to be like I said. I think that this was one of the better games, two better pair of games to watch this weekend. So I'm pretty interested to see how it's all going to pan out. And two of the teams that DSK said are trying out this new formation, this new style of play, which obviously Pep has been using for a while, and probably not nowhere near as settled and as um, I think there's going to be a lot of gaps in their execution. So, and they both have, and we saw Bruno was great. I think Rashford, if he moves into those kinds of spaces, that we know that right side of Partey is going to be the area to target, and Rashford can find a pocket there. I think it's going to be a really exciting game.
Yeah, interesting point there, rather, because unlike the first two games against Forest, Rashford played on the left and he was quite effective. I think he had 2 assists in the game. So, how would how would Arsenal react to the threat? Because you have Rashford there. At the same time, it could be the other way around because you're playing at the Emirates with Partey moving to the center. Would Rashford be following him, or how would the overload work? That's an interesting battle that we'll have to see. And the other battle would, of course, be the battle of the eights, Rice versus Bruno. Would be very interesting to see how that pans out. With will Rice be sticking to marking Bruno out because uh, it is after probably a couple of seasons that I saw Bruno take so many of long shots. He has been more looking at bringing others into play in the last year and a half. But at times during the Forest game, it looked like the Bruno from 2020, where he was taking shots left and right, and a lot of them on target also. So would Rice be sticking to him? That was also an interesting thing to look out for. The worry, of course, is United's fullback situation and the centre back situation. So how they're going to go up with Martinelli and Saka is something to be really worried about.
Yeah, I think DSK, on the point you mentioned about fullbacks or Partey for that matter inverting. I think this game is finally going to probably see Arteta reverting to type. A reason being, if I'm not mistaken, Zinchenko is almost back. He I think made a couple of sub appearances and he's I think almost ready to start. So if that is going to be the case, and with the experimentation not really having worked so far, Arsenal are under pressure to get some points after the draw against Fulham. I think Zinchenko, if he starts, then it means that he's the one who's going to slot, next to Rice, and then it will be, interesting to see if who's going to make way. Is it going to be Havertz who makes way, and then Partey comes into the base of midfield and Rice plays the number 8 role, or is it going to be Partey continuing at right back but maybe in a slightly different role? That would be interesting. I personally feel Partey and Rice might be there in the midfield, whereas Zinchenko drops in. So it will probably be Anthony who will need to drop in to help us off the ball, and then it might be a good option for United to go with McTominay in this game. And because we would need kind of two deep midfielders to track both Odegaard's as well as the attacking number 8 run on the other side. So hopefully, I think McTominay should play ahead of Eriksen, given that I don't see McTominay getting sold, and Amrabat coming in, and even if he comes in, it will be like a Caicedo situation with no preseason at all.
As we talk about McTominay, there's a bid for McTominay from Fulham. So let's see where that goes.
That's because Palinia is apparently going to buy in.
Yeah, there's a triangle of signings going on there. On Arsenal, quickly, I didn't talk about it when we were talking about the game, and I had made a note too. Fabio Vieira was just outstanding. It's one of the best substitute appearances that I've seen in a long time. He was incredible. He came on and completely ran the game, changed the game. I think right up there, like maybe just before Nunes, sorry, just after Nunes in terms of the best sub appearances of this weekend. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff that both teams can do. I do think that yeah, I agree with you guys that I think that they might revert to type. But then what happens in midfield with Havertz, and this one is definitely going to decide how this game is going to go. Jesus is also back, so I think it's going to be a lot of different. I wonder if Arteta is going to actually play the tactical guy, do a Jose or a Rafa kind of move.
He is very different to Pep, but it's more of I have my style and I'm going to stick to it. Of course, he's going to do all those nasty experimentations, but I don't see a major change in style coming from Arteta. If at all, probably interesting to see what Ten Hag has up his sleeve, because United are not really counter pressing very well. So do we kind of stay deep, or do we try to play counter? How do we deal with that? You know, but it's very important that United stay compact. Whatever shape they adopt, have to stay compact.
Yeah, so listeners can probably see my kids running around now. So I think that's basically a signal for us to to get to the end of the episode. Just before we close, the window is closing tomorrow. Is there one transfer you want to go through for your club?
Some keeper, some keeper, please. I was quite happy knowing that Andre Onana had retired from international football. Looks like there is a complete U-turn, and the African Cup of Nations is somewhere in the middle of all of this. So without a keeper, now that Henderson has moved to Crystal Palace, United are in dire straits.
I think a certain Fenerbahce keeper is going to hopefully coming to United just before he goes back to his rivals Galatasaray in the group stage. So probably that will get done. But please, midfielder has to be there. We have already talked about all the midfield struggles. Please get, I mean, anyone, but and not anyone, but definitely Sofian Amrabat would be very welcome signing.
Yeah, you might need to pay more than the 2 million you've been offering for him. So for Chelsea, it's probably going to be outgoing. I am hoping ZH and Cho will leave. And as my kids say, that's probably the end of the episode.
Callum Hudson-Odoi cracked them up, I guess.
Yeah, my daughter doesn't like him. On that note, listeners, I think it's time for the end of this episode. We'll catch you again soon.